welcome to tonight's school committee meeting. Daryl, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sure. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are down a couple of members tonight due to work and other life issues, but we will proceed with the consent agenda, the minutes from November 30th, 2017, oath of bills and payroll.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda as read.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, we have two portions of the meeting for input from interested citizens. The middle school holiday concert is going on tonight, so I think all interested citizens are probably, have a high majority over there, so I don't see anybody in the audience right now, so we will skip right past that. We'll go into recognition. Olivia, the student representative report.
So at Shaker Lane, they're having their parent-teacher conferences this week and last week, which my sister who goes there has been greatly enjoying the half days, and the seniors at the high school are silently dreading that we don't have any more before break. The students also created bright wishes for the holiday season, and they hung them up at the lobby at Shaker Lane. Russell Street had an early release Wednesday. They had their PTA's Scholastic Book Fair, which I'm sure went well because it always is, because it's a lot of fun. And they have another early release. Oh, that was today. The middle school is going to see A Christmas Carol next week. On the 1st of December, they did their production of Annie, and they did an amazing job. They really pulled together. It's also important to note all of the high schoolers and other middle schoolers and all of the parents that helped pull the production together. Like we've noted a couple of times, their concert is tonight, so it's a little empty here. At the high school, they had their winter concert on Tuesday. The Humanitarian Club is wrapping up its Giving Tree, which is gifts for children in need. And a lot of the seniors are hearing back from colleges this week with all of the help from the guidance department.
All right.
Excellent. I'll piggyback on what Olivia said about the middle school play. I'd like to commend the directors and our students for a wonderful performance of Annie. I was in attendance on Saturday night, and at the end of the performance, the audience gave them a standing ovation, so that speaks volumes as to the quality of the performance, so congratulations. Hour of Code this year, all of our schools took part in Hour of Code. Shaker Lane, the kindergarten, for the first time also took part. All of our schools had links to websites so that parents and community members could follow what was happening in our schools during that week. A lot of exciting things that are happening, lots of smiles on our students' faces, and a great learning environment. Our high school was so busy with other activities, they postponed it until this week. And if you were in the library or media center, as we call it now, you'd notice an obstacle course that they had set up for some of their code.org activities. So this week they're busy with that. The librarian has a website that can be accessed to see all of the activities that are happening. Really nice to see our district embrace this week. It's a good opportunity to cement not only the importance of coding, but making our students realize that it's with some practice, it's not that hard and it's a lot of fun. And we're hoping, and we've seen it already, more and more activities throughout the year that are linked to coding, so very pleased. I talked to 2 meetings ago about our automated sub-calling system, Frontline. It was implemented 2 weeks ago. I have to say seamlessly implemented, and the credit really goes to Dorothy Malone. There was a lot of training involved. It was a major undertaking and a major transition for us. And the training not only involved our sub-teachers, it involved our staff, all of our teachers, and our secretaries as well, our admin assistants. So first day running, we really didn't have a glitch, but it was incredible. So thanks again to Dorothy Malone for helping make that happen. Also, I'd like to recognize our Wellness Committee co-chairs, Natalie Branch and Meredith Perry. They've teamed up with our town departments this year, Littleton Police Department, Littleton Fire Department, and our Board of Selectmen. And they are working on providing support, information, and prevention on opioid abuse. I'd also like to thank the police department for sponsoring an upcoming event that will be held at Littleton High School. And flyer went out today, Wednesday, January 10th. We have Richie Farrow coming to the school, talk to our students during the day, and he'll come back at the nighttime to talk to our community and obviously inclusive of parents. A great story, an inspirational story of a fellow who was a heroin addict and was able to overcome the addiction and is very, very successful today. Very powerful message, and it's just part of what this group is trying to do to bring greater awareness about a crisis that exists beyond our nation. It's unbelievable what's happened in the last few years. Very sad in this area. So again, thanks to our Wellness Committee for partnering in that area. And Olivia, you covered the rest for me, so that's great. Thank you.
All right, great. All right, under new business, we have Green Community Update from Steve Mark.
Yeah, so we've been partnering with the town through the Board of Selectmen's office and Keith Bergman, who's the town administrator, with the Massachusetts Green Communities Grant Program. And the town is in the second year of those projects, and we're thankful that they've included the school department in some of those projects. So this is year 2 for the schools. This year, we were able to replace all of the parking lot light fixtures at the high school, as well as the building external lights, and upgrade those to LED fixtures. And the estimated kilowatt hours over the year is over 100,000 kilowatt hours savings per year, and that equates to about $11,000 in savings that we'll start seeing and recouping through our budget. So we'd like to thank the town for including us in that grant program, and it will continue hopefully for the next, I think it's a 5-year program total. So.
Yeah, another good example of a partnership. Trying to do this on your own would be very, very difficult, but by pooling our resources, we've been able to together reap the benefit of some grant money to increase our efficiencies. As we all know, we've been doing energy efficiency within our district for many, many years. This is just one other opportunity for us to secure more funds to go at a faster pace. So, very appreciative of that.
So a financial update?
Yep, there's a financial report in your packet. Let me pull it up on the screen here. Financial report on your packet. This is through November. Really, nothing's standing out. There's no issues at this point in time. I would like to just point out, though, that this report, we finally got the entries to go through. This report shows, you'll see the $18,860,000, which is our approved budget, and we need to adjust that now for the additional funds that were just approved at town meeting vote. But you'll also see on that next column, you'll see that $78,456. That's a carry forward from last year. We had open purchase orders that were open at the end of last year, but weren't paid, weren't closed, so those funds carry forward into this year. We pay them this year, but I just wanted to point out that that's in that, and that's what that column is, in case anybody's asking questions about it. So, and you'll also see the $78,456 corresponds with the prior year balance of $78,456. So that's kind of what that number is. I just want to give a quick explanation that it wasn't money that we didn't spend. It's money that wasn't spent at the end of the last year, just because the invoices didn't come through or the products didn't come through at the end of the year, and so that money carried forward into this year. So
We spent it, the checks just didn't
it's
quite
spent,
cash.
it's spent,
Yeah,
but I just
the
wanted
checks didn't
to
get
make
cashed.
sure. So, and then that 18,860 budget number does need to be increased by the additional 15,890 that was approved at town meeting. I'm waiting for the town accountant to make that adjustment for us. So.
Can you touch a little bit, looks like school administration is just percentage-wise a little higher than the other categories and then facility and maintenance.
Yeah, those are higher because our fiscal year starts June 1st, or July 1st. And so that includes all those costs for July and August, where the other ones are really education-related, so they start in September.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Good. We have a school improvement plan.
Thank you.
updates.
Principal Kane was unable to make it this evening. He's under the weather, so we'll have Principal Kane present in January. Which will be kind of perfect timing because she will also be introducing a standards-based report card for pre-K to 2 at that time. So the presentation tonight is really very similar to what you find in our district report. It's nice to be able to come here, though, and have a conversation about some of our accomplishments. Our Vision 2020 plan has been reviewed. We're making final touches of the draft, and we'll be presenting that to the school committee at one of the meetings in January. And then we will, at that point in time, decide whether we want to spend more time on it or adopt it and start moving on finalizing our SIPs for the next 3 years. At this point in time, we'll start with Russell Street School.
Thanks, folks. Good evening. As Dr. Clenchey alluded to, if you've read through your packet, you'll notice that lots of the things in our accomplishment slides we've talked about quite a bit, whether it be coming out of our MCAS presentations or the PD presentations or last year. So I'm not going to read all of these to you. I'll be happy to answer questions about any of them at the end, but I'll highlight a few that are either our bigger initiatives or some things we haven't had a chance to talk about quite as much. We continue to focus at Russell Street School on standards-based instruction, grading, assessment, formative assessment, learning targets, making sure everybody knows exactly what we're focused on, why we're doing what we're doing, and that doesn't mean we're not having fun. We're not doing lots of great things, but we want to make sure that we are thinking about the instruction that we are providing to students and ensuring that it's aligned with the state expectations. Along with that, you'll notice that I put a bullet in for coaching and peer observation. We have some of our, particularly around math workshop, we have staff members who are visiting other classrooms to see some of our exemplar teachers, to try to build the capacity of some of our newer staff. I alluded to and mentioned previously that this year we're trying something called a pineapple chart, which is an opportunity. It's a board in our faculty room where teachers can write on the calendar if they're doing something in their room that they feel confident about, that someone else might be interested in, and then we try to provide coverage for folks to come in and observe those things. So it takes a little bit to get something like that off the ground. Often educators aren't quick to pat themselves on the back, and so we really want people to feel proud of what they're doing and take some risks in that area, but we do have some folks who have started that. We have an awful lot of skill and experience in the building, and in addition to our outside professional development, we want to make sure that we're tapping the people that we have in the building who are super successful in some areas. I'll continue to highlight that our RTI and WIN blocks, that's our literacy and math intervention blocks, are continuing to go well. They're 4 by 30. That means that 4 days a week we have 30 minutes of literacy intervention and 30 minutes of math intervention where students are receiving instruction at their just right instructional level in a variety of group settings. We have been very successful with Dreambox Math with our Title I students. Mrs. Mitchell has worked with Dr. Ajamian. I know that Sugar Lane is starting to pick that up as well this year, but we've been pretty happy with the results that we've gotten when the students use that, the number of times that it's recommended. We've been pretty happy with that. Last year, in particular, and this year we'll continue the next generation MCAS and computer-based testing. Was new last year. It was quite a time commitment, and we'll be getting started on that soon and getting that set up and getting another grade. Last year we did the computer-based testing with grade 4. This year we'll do grade 4 and grade 5. So we'll be getting rolling with that again soon. As we move to professional development, you'll notice that our professional development over the past couple of years are grouped into categories: academic work for staff, some social emotional learning, some mental health issues, some special education sessions. In particular, I know I mentioned this previously, but we had Sarah Ward come in and do a session on executive functioning that included some excellent takeaways for teachers to be taking photographs of things, such as a lot of the Russell Street teachers have put to use right away after leaving this PD. For instance, a lot of the classrooms at Russell Street have photos outside now of what your desk should look like when you come in the morning. So Your water bottle's there, your morning work folder's there. You know, what should your space look like? And it's a visual assistant to students who are more visual and maybe have some challenges around executive functioning, and we found that to be pretty successful. We're moving to do some more of that on an individual basis with some students who could probably benefit from that in even more routines. As we move to community and communication, we had a very successful first year with our Russell Street School. This is a typo on my part. It's Empowering Families 101. 2 sessions. We had a team of teachers write educational, professional goals around engaging the community in dialogue and presentations that were of interest to parents. Last year we did one on online safety for students, and we did one on building emotional intelligence. This year that team is planning to do one on reading and math, and they haven't picked the second one yet, but we had parents come in. We had great dialogue. We put those materials out online via email and web for other parents who couldn't be there, and the surveys that were done at the end were very positive. We have had a couple of new partnerships. We have had LHS students. We had 2 teachers and Detective Crory work together to have a group of LHS students come over and present to our 4th graders and 5th graders about the balance between the importance of academics and the balance between that and extracurricular things, athletics, theater, those types of things. That went really well. And those same students then had lunch with 3rd graders and hung out and chatted with 3rd graders and provided just some companionship. So that was really well received, something we'll continue to look to do. I think sometimes as we look at our little guys and girls in grades 3, 4, and 5, sometimes they don't see the big picture, and they might. This started a little bit out of an idea to have student athletes that were outstanding scholars come and talk to some of our kids who were really excited about being athletes but not so excited about school, and it grew into a bigger group of people. But we have great role models in the district, and the more we can do that and work with Dr. Harrington and have those folks come over, that went great. The LHS Theater program has come for the 2nd year in a row to do a promo of their show. So they came and did about a 20-minute presentation of Annie for our students. Principal Temple was there, and that's a good time. Steve Bergman comes over with the kids. It's nice for our staff to see those kids a few years older and the success that they're having with theater. And it's a nice marketing opportunity for the theater program at the middle school, because we do it a couple days before the weekend performance. So some of the Russell Street students can go home and say, hey, I saw a little and I want to see the rest. So, looking to partner with other schools and continue to do those types of things. And we did a little collaboration with Shaker Lane, and I've mentioned this previously, but the grade 2 and 3 teachers on their own last year, we had been talking a lot about trying to build the connection between student placement and student transition. And the grade 3 teachers one afternoon went down and each presented in a grade 2 classroom about what 3rd grade looks like. So they got to meet one of the 3rd grade teachers and ask questions. And then after the Shaker Lane students were dismissed, the grade 2 and grade 3 teachers talked about the students and what they might need as they're transitioning. And so that was pretty successful. And I heard great feedback from our grade 3 teachers on that. Stuck, Steve. I don't know if I have a battery problem. Thanks. As we move to climate and culture, we have had a very successful rollout of an outdoor classroom space at Russell Street School. We had 2 teachers, Heather Love and Jessica Schofel, wrote an LEF grant for part of that funding. Our PTA helped fund some of it. The district funded some of it, and then we had Littleton Earthworks donated some of their time and materials. So it's a 20-foot round paver circle out back behind the school, an outdoor chalkboard, and we're going to be there's a tree company that's going to donate stumps, and we're going to urethane the stumps. And so it's a great outdoor space for students. The folks that have been using it have been very successful. There's been classes out there with coats on as the cold weather comes. And it's like living in a building next to an elevator. You get used to the highway being there, and once the highway noise sort of is not something you think about, it's a pretty wooded area next to the farm there, and it's a nice spot for the students to be outside and do some work. So congratulations to those folks. That came out great. I mentioned the pineapple chart. We have a group of teachers at Russell Street who for a few years their professional practice goal has been to improve the culture and climate of the building. They call themselves the Sparkle Squad, and they do all kind of snacks for teachers and little motivational messages on mirrors in the bathrooms and those kinds of things. So props to them. I think that has been a lot of hard work that's been well received. We continue to work really hard on school-wide meeting. Different teachers have advised that group, and it's really a celebration of students. The vast majority of our school-wide meeting is student performances, either individually or classes performing, or some other celebration of children and their either academic work or their experiences outside of school. As we move to technology, as Julie Lord moved into a district position as one of the directors of technology, we created a K-5 teacher technology team. There's a technology leader at each grade level who works with Julie to help move the building forward. You may remember last year I talked about us having some trainings on Friday mornings, tech goodies on Fridays. That went well. The same people sort of were coming all the time, so this year we've added a TGOF Tech Goodies on Fridays blog, and those tech leaders and Julie will post to the blog for teachers at their own, as they have time to go in and take a look at some other programs and some other things that they can do. Going along with that, we've continued to expand our makerspace in the think tank with Lego We-Dos, which are a robotic Legos, like a Lego robotics toolkit. We bought them last year, and we started rolling them out. And then we're in the process of purchasing a classroom set of virtual reality goggles so that teachers can be using them with kids to enhance their educational experience. Finally, we've really worked hard to make sure that all classrooms have document cameras and Apple TVs. It's interesting, this is my 6th year. When I came, the interactive whiteboards were the cutting edge, and we still have them at Russell Street, but very quickly we've moved to projecting our iPads and our computers, and 6, 7, 8 years ago, having little voters in students' hands was the only way to poll, and now there's all kinds of different things that are going on and apps that are available on our iPads or our Chromebooks or whatnot. So technology continues to move at a rapid pace, and our teachers work hard to keep up with that. Happy to answer any questions that you have on the things I mentioned or any of the other bulleted points.
No, I think it sounds like there's some great things going on there.
Thanks.
Just since it's the last bullet on the last chart you did, plan for end of life of Chromebooks. Are we end of lifing Chromebooks at the school?
In all of our schools, that's part of our technology plan. If you recall, I know we give you a lot of information, but we created a chart that through the next 3 years shows end of life, number of computers that are at end of life, and how we're replacing them, and making sure that we're moving forward with our technology plan and the goals that we've set.
So what's going to replace at the school here?
Chromebooks. So the plan is when we need to
Okay,
be.
this is very confusing the way it's worded. I thought it meant that we were discontinuing Chromebooks at the school.
No.
Well, no, that's why I'm asking.
No, we're just replacing the current Chromebooks as they age out.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we've talked about that. So there's a schedule. I think the tech folks presented a schedule for the next, as Dr. Clenchey said, the next 3, 4, 5 years, what we need to purchase at each building in each year to ensure that we continue to have the same level of support for our students.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that because, like I said, I read it and I go, I don't remember
No,
us
it's definitely
discontinuing
interpreted that way.
Yeah,
that.
it could be. Now that I read it,
It's not, right, it's not the end of life of Chromebooks as a technology, it's the end of life of a particular Chromebook.
But we've already planned to replace them.
Right.
That's what I want to make it clear to
Yes.
anybody
So
that,
currently
hopefully
we
somebody's
will-
listening
We will
there.
continue
that-
to use Chromebooks as our primary access point for
Yeah,
the
that-
Correct.
technology.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that
Yeah.
there. And so this is, just for context, this is our current SIP that we're looking at.
Correct,
Yeah.
because we're revisiting our strategic plan.
Okay, so in the update, the discussion we had at last meeting about, the grade 3, 4 test scores, continuity pieces, that would be,
Addressed in the
Addressed in the
next
next-
SIP.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
thank you.
Good, yeah, thank you, Joe. All right, thanks, Scott.
I'm not sure if we're in trouble, so.
Yep. What's that? Well, battery could be dead.
I'm going to follow the same strategy that Scott had. This is information that we talked about in the spring, but I'm going to highlight some points on each slide. So we continue to research best practices, both for struggling learners and for advanced learners. I'm really pleased with the frequency that the teachers get together by grade level and by department to look over testing, MAP testing, MCAS testing, and really make decisions for their current students, and this is an ongoing practice. As well as the development of transdisciplinary units and projects per grade. The Enterprising People Project, 6th grade does in the fall and into the winter is a great example. Part of that is in the math class, part of it is in the ELA class, part of it is in the social studies class, as well as within the unified arts classes. So they work all together in all of their classes to complete their project. And so that's just one example of that. But that continues to be the plan at the middle school for in curriculum instruction assessment. Do I click or you?
No, I got it.
Thanks. In professional development, I think the really important piece to highlight here is the building-based and district-based PD opportunities. Again, I just had teachers get together on the early release last week and go over MCAS scores, and immediately they were planning their PD opportunities for the spring to get together and have some practice on narrative-based writing and other kinds of projects to do with students to help enhance our MCAS scores. So those opportunities for professional development that teachers design on their own are really valuable, as well as the building-based professional development that we plan for our staff. In community and communication, we really do continue to talk about, I find this always interesting when I meet with the PTA and with school council. There's always a fine balance of how to communicate how much and in what kinds of varieties. And every time we think we have it at a pretty good balance, people will say, we would prefer to have all of our information in one spot, or we want to look here. I was nervous at a recent meeting with someone suggested that we have a school Facebook page, which made me a little bit nervous, who would watch over that Facebook page. But certainly we have to take into consideration the ways that people get their information. But all of these things are things that we use to give information to families each week. The implementation of Aspen is really, I find that when students and families have the availability to just look on Aspen and see when their grades are updated or when homework assignments are in there, that really is helpful at the middle school level for parents and students to stay up to date with those assignments. So Aspen has really been valuable for us. In climate and culture, we continue to work on getting the advisory program just right. We tried something last year, and the feedback that we got at the end of the year was that the students, we had advisory on Thursday morning, and the students were not happy. They didn't feel like the morning was a good time for them to be talking. And so we changed advisory this year to a longer period of time on Monday afternoon. And the teachers aren't happy that it's on Monday, but the students are happier that it's in the afternoon and they feel more awake then. So that continues to be tweaked. Our signs of suicide program, we had new staff trained. Our new 7th grade teachers were trained to be able to help with that assessment this year. And we continue to review the results of the Youth Risk Behavior Survey and analyzing the data and try to put new things in place at school to with the results of the past survey in mind. Next. For technology, I completely agree with Scott. The technology is moving quickly. I did a technology survey recently to really look at the needs and wants regarding technology, and I think it changes quickly, just as Scott said. I had teachers wanting document cameras that had not wanted document cameras before. That was one of the things that people requested. I too have requests for the smart boards to go away because teachers want the regular whiteboard space. But the document cameras, I purchased 4 document cameras a couple of weeks ago, and they're all in play already. And so that continues to just, be an important thing to keep talking to the teachers about to make sure they're up to date with the things that they really want to have in their classrooms. But technology is certainly being utilized daily. And that's it.
Just a point of clarification. We're reviewing the 2016-27 SIPs, but that in no way indicates that we're in a state of equilibrium as a result of reviewing our Vision 2020 plan. We have active initiatives going on as of the 1st of September. And it just reminded me when I looked at the technology plan for the middle school, we're in the process of creating a makerspace this year in the middle school. Next year, Shaker Lane is on the docket for creating a makerspace. So there's a lot of things going on that will just be formally documented, so to speak, as soon as we approve the new Vision 2020 plan.
Thank you for reminding me about the makerspace. That should be online and ready to go in January. We started collecting items for a makerspace last year, but the space that we had was a pretty small space. So over the summer, we moved the Academic Support Center to a different space. We just had to juggle some spaces. So the makerspace is in a large classroom space at the top of the stairs across from the library. And then all of these materials that we had been collecting that were in boxes all over the place were just in that room. And I was pleasantly surprised when I went in the other day that they have been busy in there. Todd Shoemaker and some other staff have been in there putting up shelves and putting things away. So it will be an actively used space in January. And the real goal with the makerspace was and the concern last year when we first created the space was that it wasn't large enough to have a whole class of students go in there. So that was really our challenge, was a space challenge. But the classroom space where they are in now, and certainly your program at your school was an excellent model, and Julie has been an excellent resource for us. We were worried about tables and chairs, and she said, no, kids stand in these spaces. We need to get a few tables and raise them up. So it is a really functional, workable space with just shelves all over the place and lots of materials for students to be able to just go in and build and create in there. So we're really excited to have that go online in January.
Great.
Thank you for reminding me.
Special thanks to Littleton Light, Electric, and Water Department for their generous donation to help make this happen.
On climate and culture, I think you touched on a specific change on the advisory program there. Is there anything specific on the YRBS, or are we just still in the analysis phase? Has there been any specific
We did analysis at the end of
changes?
the year. We did analysis that we presented at the end of the year, last year at school committee, and we, with Sarah's help and with the guidance department, we really look at the different aspects that we need to kind of talk about and make sure that we address, whether it be in our health classes, in our grade level classes, or in our advisory program. So we used that data to kind of infuse into the advisory program to make sure we're touching on the items that, were challenges for our kids. And really look at things as a staff. One of the things I remember specifically was reported out in 8th grade, the stress levels in the spring, and we really analyzed why is that. Why in our school do we think the stress levels of our kids were higher than any other middle school at that time, and we really looked at what's happening at our school with the Washington, D.C. trip that comes up in the spring, and our science fair project that comes up in the spring, and really ways to monitor that and maybe spread things out so we're not adding to that stress in the spring.
Yeah, I guess, not to put you on the spot, but it was really what are we doing after the analysis? And so you identified the issue and kind of like what changes are we making, I guess, is where I was,
So it
going
really is,
for.
Sarah works with the staff in our Thursday meetings to really, we made a list of the things that we needed to work on, and it's really per grade level that we talk with the teachers and the staff around, why do we think this came out, and how can we work on that? And so we had identified our areas of difficulty and challenge last spring when we presented here, and those were brought back to the staff then, and it continues to be a document that we have out in our Thursday meetings. We meet every Thursday with all of our staff by grade level, and that continues to be a document that we look at and analyze when we're talking about, what, the feel in the building or what's happening with the students. We go back to that document to say, how can we make changes?
All of those areas that were identified in the document are being addressed at both the middle school and high school through various strategies. guest speakers are brought in on various topics, through social and emotional learning in terms of the curriculum and strategies that we're using, growth mindset. We're addressing a lot of those areas, wide sweeping, that you change your approach to how you handle conflict with students, how you assess students, and what I mean by that is ridding yourself of the tendency to give zeros and set those expectations that those assignments, will be done. It may take a little longer, but let's measure learning. Let's not be penalizing kids and turning them off so they feel they can't pass courses, etc. So all those things are being rolled out. The principals are also asked to engage with their public once a year on some topic that is of interest in their schools or a targeted area in their schools, and this is one area that I certainly encourage them to take that step and have those conversations, sometimes difficult conversations. So.
Yeah, I guess what I'd like, maybe just in terms of just thinking about is it's, it's good to see that we're working on something. I think it helps sometimes to have a specific example of a change as a result of the analysis, as opposed to leaving it unsaid what we've actually done with it there. I realize it wouldn't be an exhaustive list, that's way too much, but just a couple of bullet examples would be very useful, I think, for folks.
Yeah. It's a good point, Daryl, and really in essence, to be effective at addressing some of those things that really stood out, it's about not changing the climate, it's about changing the culture. And we're part of the picture, we're not the full picture, but I really believe that what we do certainly impacts what happens in the broader community in some of these areas. We need to lead by example, and by getting parents in and involving more community in our conversations, it'll go a long way. Our wellness committee with a partnership, embracement of a larger partnership will make, I believe, a bigger difference in our community in terms of focusing on common goals. But you're right, in our next SIPs we should really focus in on some tangible examples.
Yeah, and the Signs of Suicide program and the Youth Risk Behavior Survey will probably always be in the school improvement plan at the middle school.
Good. Thank you. Good. Thank you. Carol.
And it's worth noting, because I went from middle school to high school, when I was in middle school, we didn't half-ass them at all. And so freshman year, it was like hard figuring out like the balance of it. So I think it's nice, like transition-wise, but since the middle school is now using it, going to the high school, like having the same format, it's the same login.
You bring up a good point too, because you're right. We're on what I would effectively call our second generation of students and families that have access to it. So, it should be more comfortable, more familiar, and more beneficial by virtue of that. So that definitely helps.
Good evening. I guess it's time for the high school's presentation here. And similar to Scott and Cheryl, I'll try to be brief in recognition that a lot of these items have been presented in various forms and fashions throughout the past year or two. To start with, I'd just like to highlight some areas in curriculum, instruction, and assessment at the high school that we're working on over the last 2 years. It's been a priority, certainly in part, led by the superintendent, to partner with local colleges. We did one a few years ago with UMass Lowell, specifically related to nanoengineering, and our students put a fabulous presentation on about that here at the school committee meeting. And what's exciting is we're advancing into our second, if not third year of a partnership with Middlesex Community College to offer dual enrollment courses. We've always had students enrolled in dual enrollment to go to the college, and it's been piecemeal, a couple of kids here and there each over the course of our school year, primarily seniors. But now we've brought the dual enrollment courses to the high school, and they're taught by high school faculty. They're also identified as adjunct faculty at Middlesex Community College, and with all the benefits that come with that in terms of access to their databases and things like that. This is a vibrant partnership. I think it has a strong future ahead, not only in our high school but in local high schools. I think we were one of the forerunners in this area to get it going, and I do see more and more email traffic about it among principals and conversations happening. And at Littleton High School this year, we're offering dual enrollment courses in Latin, Spanish, and statistics. And we also, I think, there's also, physics as well. I don't think it's on the list there. I know that Dan Hogan was working on that.
I think physics is, because when we all went in to take the AccuPlacer, all the physics kids were there.
Yeah, so physics is, this just launched this September, yeah, so, and this is looking back retrospectively 2 years ago, so when, you know, this is an update for over 2 years of our school improvement plan goals and accomplishments. This is something also that Olivia might be able to speak to. I don't know if you benefited from this, but, yeah, I know you have some exciting news tonight about college admission, but we expanded our college essay conference. We freed up English teachers during the course of it, got a sub in, and we have 5 English teachers, so there was a different English teacher over a period of 5 days who would dedicate the entire day to conferencing, real personalized approach, and giving students feedback on their college essays. This has been well received and appreciated by students and parents, and I want to really thank the English department, all the teachers, for their tremendous effort to provide editorial feedback to our students. I think it's certainly strengthening the college essay as the students are. Did you participate in that?
I didn't know it was happening until it was too late
you
to
heard
sign
about
up.
it. Yeah, and some of your friends or?
A lot of my friends did it. The high school does a really good job with like senior guidance seminar, unless you don't have a study hall, in which case like it's a little bit harder to like find the time. Like the guidance counselors are happy to stay after, which Mr. Christie did for me a bunch of times, which was really great. Or I went and saw him during one of the lunch periods, but like they didn't send an email out about signing up for that, so I didn't see that at all. I mean,
I think this
my
is.
essay was still good enough to get me into a college.
Yeah,
so.
tonight, Olivia was accepted to a college, right? You got notice
Yeah.
at 5 p.m. tonight.
Nice.
So, yeah, and I think this is an area that we definitely want to publicize more if it's not getting out to the students who aren't in guidance seminar. I think it would be worthwhile to have Jan Nolan and Chris Christie, our 2 guidance counselors, come in at some point, make a presentation perhaps to the school committee, and speak to the school committee about all the efforts they've demonstrated over the last few years to strengthen our guidance curriculum. This was a big change we made several years ago with the guidance seminar, and it allows our guidance counselors to meet in large groups with large groups of students rather than, you know, trying to schedule all these individual appointments. We still offer that, but now we're able to provide direct instruction to a whole classroom full of students at the same time. But they also get a lot of personalized attention. They have their Naviance accounts open, and so that's been a nice addition to our school over the last few years. Getting back to the curriculum instruction and assessment update, another highlight that I would mention is the adoption of a high school pin of biliteracy. I attended a conference a couple of years ago with our world language department coordinator, Elizabeth Kelly, about this initiative called the Seal of Biliteracy. And Massachusetts, just this past November, became the 26th state to allow high schools or districts to grant a seal of biliteracy at graduation as part of the diploma experience. And this is in recognition of a high level of proficiency in a language other than English. So this is a fabulous thing. But prior to that, we decided as a district and as a high school to offer a pin of biliteracy to recognize our students who had studied language or language other than English for 4 years. So we tried to get it going on our own local level, but now the state has gone on and signed and officially passed a bill to recognize students who have a high level of proficiency in a language other than English. So that's exciting news, and we'll be seeing what we can do to recognize them perhaps at graduation this year. And you can see the rest of the items. Some of these have been spoken to at previous meetings, so I'll just move on to the next. The following list shows ongoing curriculum projects and professional activities. What's interesting here to highlight is just perhaps the first bullet there. The Foundations of Math course is a relatively new course at the high school geared towards special education students. But we've also done extensive work to revise our Algebra 2 curriculum. We bought a whole new textbook and series of, as well as supplementary materials for Algebra 2. And we also have updated our AP Calculus curriculum. And I know you get all kinds of updates from our curriculum coordinators through the year, so I won't go into detail about that tonight. There's also, I'll highlight the third bullet, the curriculum alignment with the new 2016 curriculum frameworks for biology. Very important because that's an MCAS tested subject for us. And then another bullet a little further down is the hard work that Michelle Hurth and Tracy Turner have done to boost our curriculum development and our transition planning for students in special education. And the rest of it, you can see there's a lot of things happening at the high school. We'll go on to the next slide, which is professional development. And I won't go into too much detail here because just recently Dr. Jamian provided a really comprehensive overview to the school committee and the public about the variety of professional development experiences in the district. Faculty are actively engaged in district training, school-based activities, graduate coursework, workshops, seminars, and conferences. And the list there, you can see right below there, or right on the screen, a whole lot of things happening. Ones that highlight are best practices and study guides in Spanish. That's the whole Spanish program. That was a comprehensive review led by Beth Steele and Margot Gillen. Spanish 1 through AP Spanish. Aligning the French, this is very important, our French 1 mid-year exam, final exams of the 7th and 8th grade program. And we also have made a strong focus as a district, but also at each individual school, particularly in the high school, to help teachers with strategies for reducing stress and anxiety in our students. There's been a fair amount of presentations in professional development focused on that particular topic. And a lot of our teachers are becoming quite familiar with a program called Schcmte and Google Forms. Of course, the whole Google, or G Suite as it's called, we're actively using that throughout the high school. The next page, professional development, lists individual collaborative views of various things. We've had, of course, trainings focused on school safety in partnership with the fire department, with CPR and AED training, and of course with the local police department with the ALA safety protocols. And of course, we have had physical restraint training. Administrators have gone through that along with a lot of staff just this past year. And this fall, we continued that. And executive skills focus is a big area for us, particularly with our freshmen, because we want to inculcate certain skills early on in the high school experience. And I'll just point out the bottom bullet. Supporting social emotional learning is a district priority. It's a part of our strategic plan. It's embedded in all school improvement plans, and that's certainly an area of focus in our professional development. We go to the next category, community and communication. I already mentioned the collaboration we have with the fire department. We also expanded our student internship and work study opportunities with local schools, businesses, and organizations. I think Scott already spoke to that related to what we're doing with Russell Street. We engage, as we always do, our community with active volunteers among the PTA, the LEF, athletic boosters, the CPAC, as well as the music boosters. And now there's the Theater Arts Booster Association. There seems to be a growing number of booster associations in town. And we maintained an active partnership with Littleton Cable TV and our TV studio class. That was something that the superintendent was able to work on with the executive director and the town manager to bring to Littleton. And we weren't sure how that was going to go at first because of the transportation needs to travel, trying to arrange for van transportation for students midday, right at 11 o'clock in the morning, over to the TV studio, which is the state-of-the-art studio. And it has worked fabulously. Each week they put together a television program. Olivia, I think you know a little bit about that. You want to comment on that? That's gone for you?
I'm not in it this year
Yeah.
because of
Scheduling.
the Latin 5.
Yeah.
Basically, the highest level language courses get scheduled during that block because it's a little bit longer than the rest. Although sometimes it's a little distracting with all the bells, but we manage. But last year I was in it and it was a blast. It was a lot of fun because we came up with our own segments, and if you've been watching any of this season, which I have, they've come up with some of their own and they've really embraced it.
That's great. Thank you. And I know you were a roving reporter throughout town. There were some segments where you went on site, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of neat. When they're outside, they leave the studio and they go different places around town to highlight certain events or activities going on. And there'll be a new edition of TNN coming out tomorrow, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we'll go to the next slide. Climate and culture. As many of you know, we have an active National Honor Society Student Council Best Buddies program. Just recently, our Best Buddies collaborated with the Town Robotics program to help students with special needs learn more about 3D printing and some other activities. We have a very accomplished band and drama program, and they were just featured at the recent concert, our winter concert on Tuesday night. And of course, we had drama productions in the fall, and we're discussing the spring production. among the productions being considered Music Man and Hello Dolly. I think there'll be a decision made pretty soon about that. We have a high participation rate, as you know, in athletics. 314 out of 461 students played at least one sport. That's a 68% actual participation rate, which is pretty phenomenal at our small high school. And during 2016-2017, we had 8 league championships, 1 district championship, and 1 state championship with the girls indoor track team. And 18 out of 22 varsity teams qualified for the MIA tournament. We also added a new unified track program for special needs students. And there's a number of other things that are listed there that you can take a look at. Active things happening. All right, next, we'll go I think you know about our student support team. This is part of the culture of every school building for intervention and help with students who may be struggling academically or with behavioral issues. This is a team that meets bi-weekly to monitor student progress and recommend interventions as needed. We have a host of advisory activities, and this is during our extended advisory program. Last few years, we've focused on executive skills development with students, anti-bullying education, driver safety and substance use prevention, career inventories, scholarship applications, and of course the SOS program that Cheryl, I think, mentioned a little bit about earlier that's also at the middle school. And students, of course, participate as part of a graduation requirement in community service projects throughout the year. And they have a graduation requirement of 50 hours. That's been part of the Littleton high school program since the mid-90s, I think. And last year, we participated in the National School Climate Survey. What we're looking to do is we want to have a comprehensive analysis that sort of consolidates different instruments or surveys that we've done over the years, over the last year or two, to get a real big picture view of what's going on in different areas of importance. And so I would expect that you'd be hearing from us probably in March with an update. And it will be synced up with our school improvement plan presentations, but it might follow a little bit after that. We'd like to first want to go over it internally with the faculty, first with the school leadership team and then with the faculty at large, and have some type of reporting out to parents in the school committee related to YRBS results and response, and then National School Climate Survey results and response. But we want to consolidate it all. So stay tuned for more about that. Finally, with technology, I don't think I have to explain too much about this since the school committee had a comprehensive presentation about the one-to-one technology program. We really appreciate your support of this. It's going well. Natalie Branch and Julie Lord have done a fantastic job overseeing the implementation of this program, and they gave an update, I think, just recently about it. So I'll spare you the details, but students can also bring their own devices or use Chromebooks. This was just rolled out in past August, and there was some. There were a lot of other things, some very technical things that I don't know all the language for. And Natalie and Julie, if they were here, they would be able to speak to it. But there were Wi-Fi and server upgrades, including filtering software and something called Securely. I don't know all the details of the technical stuff behind it, but I know they were very proud of it. And I know some of this came at substantial cost, investment from the town and the school community. So
Securely is a software program, the security for the Chromebooks.
Okay.
And I'm also proud of all the work that our library media specialist, Sue Hines, has done to, improve the library experience. It's really a place of active learning. It's not, we had sort of a staid place in the past where students would expect to be quiet and, go to their little, we had these little, they weren't quite cubicles, carols. Yes, thank you. Yeah, just like Boston University has all throughout the Bugard Library, right? We had a bunch of those.
Correct.
You remember that, right?
I didn't use them a lot, but I think so.
They have them there when you take the tour, right?
Exactly.
So, but they were there, and we had that in common there, Mike. So, the Library Media Center is really popping with 3D printers. There's a large format printer now. Sue is underway with some early makerspace activities. I think we'll be hearing more from her about that. You'll probably see some tweets throughout, probably tomorrow from her all about, and Kelly already, superintendent already mentioned the her website that she's featuring some of the Hour of Code stuff. There's a lot of amazing activities. Every time, I'm always amazed at when I walk in there during the day and see, what are you working on today? The kids seem really engaged. It seems like a place they want to be. They enjoy being with her. They feel supported. So there's a lot of great things happening in the Library Media Center to support active and more collaborative learning environments. And a lot of this was made possible through the FM Kimball Fund. So we're setting up a date in January for them to come out. The trustees from the fund want to come out and see what was their return on their investment. And I think it would be wise for us to perhaps have Sue Hines arrange for a night that would work for her to come to the school committee meeting, make a presentation. She will do this for the Kimball Fund anyway, but also for the school committee of all the updates, and maybe provide some visuals.
Yeah.
And she'll be able to speak more powerfully to what she's done. But a lot of great things happening in our library, which is particularly related to technology. So that about wraps it up for that, because you can see the rest of the things that are happening. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. You guys talked about how this is a repeat of some of
Yeah.
the stuff that we hear about, which we shouldn't be defensive about. I mean, I think that helps us understand that the things that we're investing our money and our effort into are things that we see used in the district all the time, and we should be reinforced as to how we're using these things, how important they are. And if you only told us about something once and we never heard about it again, I'd be much more worried that that thing didn't have particular value and that we were wasting our time and money and flipping around too much from thing to thing. The other thing that strikes us when we see these kinds of things is the scope of what goes on in the district every day. It's not sit down at your Carol or your desk, put your head down and read this material. It's much more vibrant, it's encompassing, it goes across, everything, the intellectual development obviously, but the creative development, the problem solving, the social navigation, all those types of things are illustrated in the type of programming, the professional development, and the implementation of the resources that we're going to go over some of the budget stuff now, and this is what we get for that, and I think it's a great reminder, so it's very beneficial. Thank you.
Just worth noting from a student perspective, so the library, it's been really cool, but some of the VHS students that are in there early in the morning don't enjoy it quite as much anymore because it's harder for them to get some work done, especially because Ms. Hines got a bunch of green screens, so a lot of classes come in the mornings and they make movies with them, the movies look really cool, but my friend who's taking an AP class on VHS tries to find a quiet corner, isn't always successful. The Wi-Fi, they did a really good job, there's the things that you shouldn't be able to see at school, you definitely can, but because it's big word filters, a lot of the AP Psych students can't get to certain sites, and the child development class can't, but tech has been really great, because I've had to tell a couple of teachers, hey, I can't actually use this online resource, and the tech almost immediately clears it for us. And last year I had one class available on Google Classroom, and this year I had 4 and a club. So teachers have been embracing it. People are still working out the kinks of it, and one teacher really only uses it for emails, but others have all of our digital readings are on there, all of our assignments are on there. So
Good.
That's great.
Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is Neshoba Valley Technical High School. Kelly and I were invited over there last week by Charlie Ellis, who is our appointee to the Neshoba Valley School Committee. And Kelly and I went over there and had lunch and sat down with Charlie and the superintendent over there, Denise Pigeon. It was sort of a way for them to update us on what's going on at the tech, and to also brainstorm about some ideas about how we can do, both parties can do a better job of making sure that Littleton as a community is aware of what the tech offers to the students, families, and the citizens of Littleton. You can bring your car over there, and they will change the oil or do body work and things like that. But we came away with some things we're going to follow through on about, when we think about the tech, we think about the transition, the most obvious one from 8th grade where you might choose to go to Neshoba Valley Technical High School instead of going to Littleton High School. But in reality, that's just, it's a significant piece, maybe the most significant piece, but it's only a piece of what they offer. There is postgraduate opportunities for study and training over there for our students, even students that have gone to college and have maybe decided that it's not exactly what they wanted. They can come back and they can actually take advantage of things that are going on at the Tech. There are programs outside of the traditional school day that students can avail themselves of. So what we talked about was what's the best way for them to give us that information, and how can we disperse that to the community and make sure that the community's understanding of what the Tech has to offer is current and up to date, because it might very well not be. So it was a good discussion. Kelly, what'd you think about it?
I thought it was great. No, a couple of other things that, really what Mike has said, but just extrapolating a bit, it's pretty hard to expect students at a grade 8 level to make decisions as big as a decision they make to stay at our high school or go to a Voc Tech school. And we talked about admission requirements and opportunities to perhaps capture students at Littleton High School that aren't convinced that the academic route that they're on is the way they want to go. So, we talked about further identification in grades 9 and 10, for example, because they really just need the junior and senior year to come out with some type of certification at the Tech school. So that was, I think, a very powerful conversation as well. Then opportunities to share resources. They virtually opened their doors to us to, have classes come in and use some of their equipment that we don't have, etc. And we're going to explore other opportunities for partnerships as well. So it was a very worthwhile visit.
The other thing that you remind me of is, the other thing that we want to be able to educate the students and families and community about is the breadth of the curriculum that they offer there. It goes well beyond what people as old as I am would remember from the Voc Tech schools. They have robotics, they have programming and web design, they have business curriculums designed for somebody who might not be interested in a 4-year degree, but yet can get the training necessary to go to work in corporate America. So there's a lot of opportunity there. It's a very wide scope in what they offer. And again, I think we just want to make sure that each family will make their own decision, as they should, but it's important that they have all the information necessary to be able to, A, make an initial decision, but as Kelly be able to revisit their decisions and understand what opportunities are there as they move through the process of getting through the secondary education level in this area, which is not just Littleton.
We do have students that come back from the Tech and join us at the high school, but I don't ever remember having anybody in our high school choosing to go to the Tech after they're at our high school. So that's an area that we really... And
there's plenty of kids at the Tech who go on to 4-year degree programs without any problem. I mean, they have a fully vetted, the same type of curriculum that we have in terms of, they have to take the MCAS, and they have, all those subjects and stuff. So we definitely will continue to talk to them, and they're going to send some material and ideas over, and we'll hear more about it as we move forward.
And we're actually meeting with some staff, the high school administration and middle school administration and guidance counselors, to talk about opportunities for our juniors and seniors as well. Is there an opportunity for some of our students to take a class over there? An area of interest. What we'd really like to see, and it's something that's going to take some figuring out, is finding a block of time at the high school where our students would have lack of a better word, a potpourri of things to choose from. Online courses, Middlesex College, University or UMass Lowell, perhaps a course at Voc Tech, and have that time where students can really pursue an area of interest. We've spoken a lot about we can't do everything within our 4 walls, and we really need to embrace that concept. And Neshoba Tech seemed to be open to that, and that would be really quite interesting if we were able to do that. It's not common in this state, but it's certainly talked a lot about in white papers on Voc Tech education, etc., around the nation. So, we want to proceed cautiously because we want to be respectful of each other's visions as well. But looking forward to those conversations.
Questions on that?
No, I'm just, I'm glad that this has continued to progress. I mean, it was something, quite a while ago when I was, way too far ahead. It's just like, what do we do? Because the tech high school was the tech high school, and each town is its own, and there was very little communications. I'm glad we're not taking the perspective of being adversarial with the tech high school as some communities are. It's not a competition for our students. It's about making sure the students are taking the path that is going to help them succeed there. And I'm glad that that is our attitude here.
We have a terrific advantage. Charlie Ellis was a extremely eloquent advocate at that lunch. And, Charlie was on our school committee. He's now been our representative at that school committee. He's actually a graduate of the tech school types of tech schools that I remember, because he's even older than I am. But he really wants that, he's passionate about that, exactly what you just said. It shouldn't be competition, it shouldn't be adversarial, it should be cooperative. And he wants to make sure that the community, because we're paying, our money goes over there, our tax dollars go over there every year. And he just wants to make sure that, he's passionate about making sure that we as a community understand what the benefit is, and it's significant, and it's evolving, and we need to keep refreshing our understanding of exactly what those benefits are so that we can take full advantage of them. And he did a good job. We were happy to sit down with him. We're always happy to talk to Charlie. But you could tell that he was excited, and his teeth are in it now, so we'll be hearing more from him, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've talked to him in the past also, and, even, I think Littleton doesn't take advantage of what's available through the tech high school, even to the community projects there, that we ought to be looking to embrace that as much as possible. Yeah.
Good. All right.
Can I just add?
Yes.
We do, at the middle school, have outreach with the tech. They have been doing a presentation for us in late fall, and then our students sign up to do a tour. So all of our 8th grade listens to the presentation, and then students who are interested are able to go for a tour prior to their open house that they have on a weekend in the fall. And we did a lot of advertising for that, for the open house, and we do that prior to our tour of the high school. So we do nice outreach with them in the fall.
They give away really nice pens. I got my pen in 8th grade. I used it all the way through the rest of the year. I think just something that the superintendent said that's not really big at the high school is none of us have any idea that if you wanted to go over to the tech as either a sophomore, junior, or senior, I mean probably not a senior because the training that you need, that's even an option.
Right.
It's kind of like 6th grade. You want to go to Parker, you put your name in for the lottery, you leave 7th grade. 8th grade, you might be interested in the tech, that's your chance to go.
Right. And I think that was the big takeaway from us, is that nobody should be feeling like that's the case. It shouldn't be one and done in 8th grade, and it's something you can circle back towards at different points.
And that's an evolution on their
Yes,
part
correct.
also, because before it was a 4-year requirement
Right.
in order for their graduation requirement there. And I'm glad that they're taking a little bit broader view at this point. And good.
Awesome. All right, we were at our second point for input from interested citizens. Still seeing none. Going to subcommittee reports, PMBC.
Let's see, we met last week. PMBC is also getting ready for the budget summit there. I had the discussion with them. They were asking about the capital list there, and I said I'm trying to make a very clear point of the school department is requesting the things necessary to advance our education program, and we're asking that the town, via the PMBC, for our building and other pieces needs there. I don't know if that concept is fully embraced by everybody, but that's the message I'm putting forward there, because I think we're the only department that had in the past been asked to budget our own capital items, and every other, so I'm emphasizing we ought to have consistency here on it. So they agreed to put the block of our PMBC capital items, and I encourage them to reach out to the other departments to try to coalesce them all into their presentation. So I think that's continuing to move along.
All right, that segues into the presentation from the Budget Subcommittee. We do have in this room on Saturday is what I don't know if they call it the Budget Summit, that's what we call it.
Yeah.
But it's the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen will hear from all the town departments on their initial budget requests. And then they will obviously also hear from the school committee as well on our initial budget request. I'll be there at 11 a.m. on Saturday. So what we have here is what the Budget Subcommittee has put together that will be presented. We're presenting this tonight to this meeting, and then we will present it again on Saturday morning at the Budget Summit. And what this is the initial budget analysis and the initial request. And what we have here on the first slide are our biggest drivers. Behind them are more explanation on each of the drivers. So our salary increases to retain our current staffing level, we're projecting a $604,000 increase. SPED out-of-district placements and tuition, an increase of about $168,000. A slight increase in operational expenses of $31,500. Our regular ed transportation contract is up, and we are going to see an increase of $120,000 in that. We had a lot of discussion last year about the drive towards tuition-free full-day kindergarten, and we agreed that we would go into a 5-year phased approach. And in order to meet that goal, we would need to add $150,000 to the appropriated budget this year. And then we have some additional staffing requests for a total of $245,000. That's a little bit over $1.3 million increase. Our appropriated budget, as Steve talked about earlier in the meeting, will be slightly adjusted from what we voted last spring, but it will be it's currently $18,875,890. If we add in the $1.3 million, we're at $20,194,190, which is close to a 7% increase.
Just to catch a couple of things
Yep, go ahead.
here. I don't know if chart-wise you want to these are increases, not totals there. I think you catch it totals, yeah, right, just so that it's.
Oh, I see what you're saying, total increases, yep.
Yeah,
that's fine.
those are the increased
Yep,
drivers.
Yep.
Could I would like to see us use a different term for kindergarten tuition reduction. We're in like year 2 of our phase tuition-free kindergarten program or something there, so that I'm just looking at the wording there.
Yeah, Daryl, to bring back the conversation we had last year, we were cognizant of the fact that we were doing this out of revolving funds.
Yeah.
And unable to put it into operational. So as we move forward, if we're successful at putting these funds into operational, and there's a commitment from all parties, then we could change it, right? There's no, I guess my hesitation is there's no guarantee that it's going to be tuition-free kindergarten at this point in time. It's a reduction. If we run into difficult times and we can't move that money into operational, then we're kind of giving a false impression of what we're trying to do. That's my take on it.
Okay. I appreciate what you're. I'll have to think about maybe an alternate wording there. It's part of a plan, whether we can instantiate the plan or not, and it's really what we're asking for is to move it from revolving to the operating budget there.
Right.
And because I guess there's significant ramifications if that doesn't occur.
It's not sustainable.
Kind of thing there. So I just want to, I want to make it clear our goal is to get towards the tuition-free, tuition-free,
Right.
But
I'll think about it.
Yeah, I just, I don't have a good words to
Yeah,
give you
that's
right
fine.
now
That's fine.
on it, but
But I understand your point, and it becomes a exercise in semantics, but that doesn't make it.
But there's a
unimportant.
significant point
Correct.
about,
Oh, absolutely.
it's not that we're just looking to reduce the cost of
Correct.
kindergarten.
Correct.
It's
The goal is
about
to
our,
get tuition-free.
our goal is to
Right.
get towards the tuition-free, or
Yeah,
tuition
we'll see the
included.
supporting slide, which
Yeah.
we really didn't do anything with. I have some,
Yeah.
things that I'll speak to, but the more I think about it, and I've been thinking about it, is I think we'll beef that up prior to Saturday.
Yeah.
to explain, because I did have a talk with Greg Schcmte, who is going to have a kindergartner in a couple of years, so he was very curious about, how that's going and how it's going to transpire, or how we're planning on having it transpire.
Right.
And I think we should speak to that.
Right, because I'd like the
Pretty
backup chart, the
definitive.
detailed chart to have
Correct.
that in it.
Right.
And because I know the tendency will be if somebody's going to pull this chart, this page off, and
Right.
that's what they're going to run with.
Right.
True, that's true.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Kind of thing
Some of
that-
the story is missing.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and the backup chart with the detail would be
Right.
good about that,
Mhm.
the implications of, and how we're progressing down.
Right.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know anything about budget, but my AP Lit class just plays affording all the time. In the first one, you have salary increases, and then you have 2 retained current staffing levels. Couldn't you, for kindergarten tuition reduction, is that for the purpose of blah, blah, blah? Or for the purpose of meeting,
Right.
With the intent.
Yeah.
Just an idea.
Yeah, good suggestion.
All right, so the next, really now, we're just moving toward the supporting slide. So the point that we're trying to make about the salary increases to retain the current staffing level is, this includes the steps and lanes on the current hires that we have. It does not include any adjustments for staff replacement due to retirements or people leaving the district, staff leaving the district for other reasons. We're so early in the process that we just don't have that information. It may very well turn out that we'd be able to in, February and March, and it's often been a topic of conversation when we've worked through this process with the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen about, well, do you think that you're gonna have some of the older staff retire, and conceivably we'd be able to hire younger staff at, lower on the scale, and there's sometimes some savings on that. But at this point, we're just projecting it based on everybody that's here today will be here tomorrow, and we'll go up a step next year. The next slide shows how we came to our determination about the increase in out-of-district tuition for SPED students. Based on our current student population, we're projecting that about $2.5 million in expenditures. We added in a potential 3% tuition rate increase for our out-of-district vendors and providers. It's about $76,400. We also put in a number in case we have an additional requirements for students to go out of district of $70,000. That's about that's what we put in there for the holder now. So we're projecting in 2019 in a budgeting aspect of spending $2,693,000. Our current appropriated budget for SPED out of district is $1,792,000. Our projected circuit breaker reimbursement for FY 2018, which we would collect and then have available to spend in FY 2019, is about $733,000. That's actually at a 65% reimbursement rate. It was 73%, so we're down. And we're factoring that into this modeling. So the total revenue available for SPED out of district is $2.5 million, and we need about 2.7. The difference is $167,807, which we saw in the first slide.
Do you want to put that, like parentheses, 65% on that circuit
Yeah,
breaker
I can do
line?
that, yeah. Circuit breaker. I actually had it in one version.
Yeah. So we're between the rate increase and the possible out-of-district placement going up $140,000 in just our budget thing, but because of the decreases in reimbursement, we're gonna need $167,000.
Yeah, I mean, if there was no increase in the rates, and if our student population that we've modeled didn't change.
Just about even.
Yeah, exactly, but it'd still be about 20,000,
Yep.
because of the reduced
Right.
reimbursement
Yep.
rate, right, exactly.
And the 70,000 estimate for out-of-district placement, is that sort of consistent with what we've been seeing the last year or so? I know we've had an influx of
Yeah,
students.
we're being, we don't want this to be a driver in the sense that we want to be cautious what we put in there. We're confident at this point in time that's the case, but we do have a transition every year with our out-of-district students, and like every district does. So it's a wait and see. But we've been pretty fortunate, knock on wood, in terms of our projections. For
I know
the-
this is one area that brings questions every year, because, you know, I think we end up, I mean, while students may leave, we have other students coming in, so
Correct.
there's really no net aging out,
Right.
a term that
Right.
people have used before
Right.
on it, and I want to make sure that we're clear on
Right,
articulating
and to
that.
Kelly's point, I mean, you know, we, you know, we're small, so that you can count the students, we know who the students are, you know, the front office knows who they're talking about, and so when we say, well, we're gonna put this $70,000 in here, it's because we think it could happen. I mean, will it happen? You could say 2 could happen, 3 could happen, you know, at that point, but every year, regardless of what we've budgeted, we've managed to make the budget work, even if it went over the 70,000 or whatever placeholder we use.
Right, I think the placeholder to 70 sounds pretty reasonable. It sounds like it's probably an extra student
Correct.
that we might not
Roughly,
anticipate.
right.
If it said like $400,000, I might say, wait.
Right, or if you didn't have anything.
That seems a little unreasonable.
Right, if
Do
you
you
didn't
have
have
data
anything,
to
you'd be
really
foolish for another
support
reason.
that?
And it affects all other aspects of the budget when you do
Yes.
that, too.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to just,
I think it's important to note as well that the difference in the circuit breaker reimbursement rate equates to $90,000 to Littleton that we're not getting this year because of that
That's a good
decrease
point.
in the rate. So that's a significant amount.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The next slide, we just talk about the operational expenses that we're gonna see some increases in. We've added year by year different software packages that we need, not in the classroom. This is software to support our infrastructure and, like, for instance, the substitute call system is software-based, it's automated, so there's a fee for that. So we need to bump the budget to support, to reflect the spending that we're doing in those items. We've had an increase in the need for sped documents to be translated into other languages besides English. The good news is that once this is done, it's pretty much done. Obviously, if some of the documents are added, you gotta translate those too, or if you get find that you have a new language, because you have a family that moved in, then you have to do it again. But we think this is we should be in pretty good shape after this.
Yeah, well, it also, Mike, it also includes costs for interpreters as
Okay,
well,
right.
so some of it will go away, but
Yep.
not that part.
Then,
This is the first year that we're really getting hit with those expenses, and so we'll track that over time.
I think before, right, they were so minimal that we just covered it within our operating budget.
Right.
Now we're finding that it's a little more sustained year by year, so we're just gonna bump that budget up. But thank you for I remember that about the actual interpreters. There is a grant that we received $13,000 for, that the state is reconfiguring how districts qualify and are eligible for that. It was, correct me if I'm wrong, remembering the discussion we had at Budget Subcommittee, almost every district used to qualify for this money, and now almost very few districts will. So this isn't us, it's a lot of
It's a
us.
federal grant.
Yeah, so,
and
excuse me,
it's a
federal grant, right?
service that we're not planning on discontinuing.
No, we're going to absorb it by rearranging, so we'll be fine.
And then, maintenance utility expenses, we're bumping this up by 5,000. Really, the point there is that that's a very small number.
Yeah,
We continue to do be as energy efficient as we can. We've had upgrades in our building systems, so, we're in pretty good shape, but.
So, not to nitpick, but I'm gonna nit. I prefer if we dropped water out of this and
Yeah,
not
in my version,
itemized,
yeah, in my version, I
what we're
already have
allocating to.
Yeah.
And I think one discrepancy you might need to address is if we're gonna see a reduction in electric because of the LED lights and an increase in our maintenance/utility fees, you might need to be able to reconcile that
Well, I think part,
statement. Just,
yeah, it's a good point. Part of what's happening is our school usage is still going up.
Yep.
And is kind of counterbalancing those savings, but boy, without those savings,
Right.
we
Yeah,
would see much
all I'm saying
larger-
is we got, it's a double-edged sword
Yes.
depending on
Yep.
who listens to which part
Yes.
of
Yep.
the,
Exactly.
of the
Exactly.
data
Right.
there.
Exactly.
We need an explanation.
Exactly, and it needs to be crisp and clear,
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah.
Because if they are going, great, I'm gonna get $76,000 back out of your budget,
Right.
Yeah, and then it isn't there.
and it's not there, well, no,
Yeah. Yeah, very.
I want to just challenge us to make sure that we're prepared
Right.
for those types of things. Thank you.
The regular ed transportation, we've talked about this, but this will be, we'll give the update to the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen on Saturday. Our contract was up, we put it out to bid, we got one respondent, the current contract holder, D-Bus. They're up $120,000 over what the old contract was. We need to bump this up. The good news is that once we bump it, it's locked in for 5 years, barring, there's kickers in the contract, and, but in the previous contracts, Steve, right, we were good for the 5 years, it didn't go up, right?
Correct. He
And now
had
the kickers-
held that contract price for 5 years.
Yeah. So, while we have to absorb this, it'll be, we'll take the hit this year, and then it'll be a static cost for, the next 4 years after that. And then, I will beef this slide up based on the conversation we had a few moments ago, trying, making sure that they understand that the $150,000 is 2 years' worth of the plan, the phase-in plan to get to tuition-free full-day kindergarten. We implemented it last year, but we didn't put the money into the appropriated budget because we didn't have enough. We carried it through school choice, and we feel that, very importantly, we had plenty of public input at those meetings. And there were people that were disappointed that we chose a 5-year phase-in approach versus a more aggressive plan. But to Kelly's point is, as a community, we made a commitment, and not everybody may agree that it is a priority in their minds, but it is a priority for us. It is a priority for a significant portion of the community, and we feel strongly that this needs to get incorporated into the appropriated budget.
So the other part I'd like, why I'm pushing that there is by having a little bit more of that plan there, because what this chart will then show is that pending availability of school choice money of $75,000 this year, we would be able to do the third year of that plan.
Right.
But if this got pressured, that 75,000 that we
Correct. Yeah, you see the point
are
you made.
planning to
Correct.
have available would not be
Correct.
available
Right.
because we would have to.
Right.
Because that will be very important for the community to understand the subtlety of those
Right,
trade-offs.
it's one thing for us to support $75,000 for 1 year out of choice, but to support $150,000 or $225,000 for 2 or 3 years is too much pressure
Because
on
this
school
is
choice.
the only place that's gonna start coming out
Correct.
in the budget process, because if they say, well, we don't have that 150, we don't have 225 in school
Right.
choice to make it up.
Right.
Right, right. And, I'm sure that this will be a debated
Robust
portion.
discussion.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But the message that we've given to the public before is, it's fine to come to our meeting and communicate to us how important you feel this is, but you also need to go explain that to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee.
Right.
Because they're the ones who need to understand that, I guess it does need to go into their appropriated budget.
Right.
And if that means there's something else we can't do as a town, or that we need to delay or reprioritize, so be it.
And then I think this will help us this year with it in terms of that discussion, because last year we didn't have a placeholder in the operating budget
Right.
for phasing it out. And
Right.
this year, I think it forces that conversation to be a little bit
Yeah.
right up front there.
Then the last slide, we're talking about the staffing additions that we would like to consider. An assistant principal at Shaker Lane for $95,000, a math science specialist that would be shared between Shaker Lane and Russell Street for $85,000, and a computer science / math instructor at the high school for $65,000, for a total of $245,000. The assistant principal, we added an assistant principal at the middle school last year. This is an effort to respond to the increase in administrative requirements. We have anti-bullying programming legislation, social and emotional learning, educator evaluation, professional development, all these things that we hear about when we have the school improvement updates and the other presentations that we've had through the year. And, we've added all of that without increasing our administrative staff in any significant capacity over the past really 6 or 7 years now, at least, that this stuff has really been picking up more and more momentum. So we feel that, now is the time to start thinking about bolstering that administrative capacity to make sure that we're able to do all those things in the manner that we need to do them, both in terms of how it impacts our student population and our staff, but also the requirements that are being put upon us by the state and federal government. The math science specialist, this was a position that we did have hired and funded 3 years ago, and we had the person leave, and we weren't able to find a good replacement, so we kind of kludged along for a year. Then we did a curriculum update, so we hired used the money to hire consultants to help us with the training for the curriculum. And now what we're asking, and then what we also did is we hired some teaching assistants to react to situations at Russell Street and Shaker Lane with the growing student population. And now what we're asking to do is get this money back in specifically for that position, which we feel, it's important. We have this type of intervention at the middle school, and we know the benefit of it, so we need to get it back in these two buildings. And then the computer science / math teacher, we've talked about how important it is that we be able to offer a robust computer science curriculum. We're kind of lagging the curve a little bit in that regard. I mean, we are small, so we probably should be lagging the curve to some regard, but I think we can all see, how important that type of training is. And it's a little trickier to find someone who can teach computer science. You can find a computer science instructor who can teach math, but you can't find every math instructor can teach computer science. So, if we get this position filled, we will definitely bring computer science in, but that's not necessarily the only thing that person would be doing. Dr. Clenching and Dr. Harrington would certainly take a look at what's the best way to utilize the resource, and then they'll figure it out from there.
Is this prioritized, or is this just a list?
Actually, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's not prioritized. It's just a list at this point in time.
Yeah.
And it's up to you as a school committee. I'm not, when it comes to additional positions, it really depends on what we have at that point in time. It's pretty early to start to.
Well, that's why I was just
prioritize.
asking, is it a list?
Yeah, I'll
It's
make
just
that
a
point on
list,
Saturday.
yeah.
That's not
That
a
is a good point,
prioritized list.
though,
Yeah.
because if you
They
don't,
don't,
they would know.
They wouldn't know.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a prioritized list. And like Kelly said, some of it will depend on what happens in the school year with his staffing, and some of it will obviously, depend on how the budget process goes. And we can start to make, weigh our priorities. All right, so, this is the budget summit. I think I have 20 minutes. It's a full day for them. So there's not a lot of give and take at this particular meeting. It's really just a kickoff.
Yeah.
So, the goal is to, get our numbers on the table, along with everybody
Yeah,
else's.
the PMBC people were asking, who's gonna justify these, and I said, no, I think it's just to present and explain what they are, not
Correct.
not to.
And that's been the format. This
Yeah,
is
that's-
the 4th or 5th year that we've done this. It's at least that. I think it's a lot more than that. But it is a very high-level presentation. It does not, and I don't expect a lot of, as a matter of fact, I would not answer those questions.
Yeah, that-
We're not ready to answer those questions, and I think everybody understands that. But if someone was pushing, I'd say, listen, this is what this is for, here you go. The process will unfold.
Yeah, because they were asking about whether who's gonna trade off the capital items. I go, no, I think this is to create the list.
Yeah.
Then that would tee up
Right.
the discussions about prioritization and how much
And
money's
tomorrow,
out
or
there.
Saturday, is all about the budget requests.
Right.
And there's no input on, what the potential for funding is
Right.
yet. That's not part of this particular meeting.
Yep.
At least as was explained to me by the.
Yeah, no, I was just
chair.
trying to
Yeah.
help with the PMBC folks
Yeah.
for it to set expectations out there. No, thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate this.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt, I
Yeah, that's all right.
monopolized any of the discussion here.
Well, Matt was there
I
when we
thought
did
so,
it,
but I realized I was
All right,
having
Jen
quite
and
the
Mike
dialogue
now
here.
We didn't get a chance. Yeah, it's, we'll get it out on the table, and we'll take a break for the holidays, and then, January, February, March, we'll all be getting after it, and there'll be joint meetings and much discussion. So.
Okay.
Anything else? We have any other business tonight?
That's it.
All right, I don't think we need an executive session, so we'll adjourn, and we will take a break for the holiday. We wish everybody a good and safe holiday season, and hope the kids will enjoy it. I know they'll enjoy it. They don't have any problem enjoying it, right, Olivia?
Guys, you gotta get through another week.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion
Thank
made
you.
and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.